Hey y'all. So I'm in this little, I call it my little hidey hole. It's a little corner in my yard where I have a old table set up. Um, Used to be a workbench in a garage, and I salvaged it. And I've got all my paint supplies out here, and this is where I come out here and I paint, and I just enjoy myself. So I'm recording this because I'm kind of taking a break this week. I need some time away. I need some time to just kind of gather my thoughts and spend in the Word and just relax a bit. I am, you know, my tank only runs on spiritual fuel. So the world depletes it, but the world has nothing that can refuel me. And so sometimes I start feeling myself getting a little low, and I pull away, spend time with the Father. By the way, this is my this is my paint shirt. I got it on clearance up at the Walmart so I can get paint on it. Anyway, a little sign I painted right there. So I need a break this week. I need some time away, and I'm taking it. So I won't be doing it live. I'm just kind of slowing down a little bit, filling my spirit up. But I had a really good email, and I wanted to talk about that today. They were asking, talking about how so often we treat the Father like a genie in the bottle. And when we come to Him in prayer, our prayers amount to a wish list. We need you to do this and this and this and this. It's almost like we're giving Him orders, And so she was asking, how do we balance that? How do we balance that with praise and reverence for Him? And I thought that was such a good question. And I thought of the perfect illustration to kind of explain that. And I wanted to talk to you about that today. So, growing up, there was nobody in this world that I would rather spend time with than my granddaddy. And I was thinking about that this morning, and I started laughing about something because I realized for the first time it may not have actually been normal, something that I did. Like when I got my driver's license, the first place I went was to see my granddaddy. When I was a kid, I loved nothing more than getting to go to Grandmama and Granddaddy's house. I loved them all. But getting to spend time with my granddaddy was a very special treat for me, and it always was. And when I was a kid and I came in Grandmama and Granddaddy's house, I had singular vision. I was queuing in on my granddaddy. And I never just sat in the room with him. I was always sitting right up against him with his arm around me. You look at any pictures. When I was little, I was either in his lap or right up against him with his arm around me. And that was kind of our stance. That's how we were. And we would go, if he went out to the garden, I was right behind him. And he talked to me about his garden. I'd ask him questions. We used to go, he had a fig tree. And he would say, my grandmother's name was Lucille. He'd say, Lucille, me and Chrissy's going to go out here and see if there's any figs on this tree. And he'd get a bowl from the kitchen, and we'd go out there. And we'd stand there and eat every single ripe fig we found. And then we'd come in, and Granddaddy would say, they wasn't a single fig on that tree. And he'd look at me and he'd wink. And we'd sit down together again. We had the best time. So when I got to be a teenager, first place I went with my driver's license was to Grandma and Granddaddy's house to see Granddaddy. And I remember, I can't tell you, this is what I thought was so funny this morning. When I would go out with my friends on Friday and Saturday night, we're talking like 16, 17, 18 years old, I'd go out with a group of friends and we'd be out riding around and they'd be thinking, well, what should we do? Where should we go? And I can't tell you how many times I said, let's go to my grandmama and granddaddy's house. And we'd be out riding the town, and I'd bring them to see my grandmama and granddaddy. And we'd walk in, and we'd sit there, and we'd visit with grandmama and granddaddy for a while. And that was funny this morning. I was thinking about it because I realized for the first time this probably wasn't the norm. I imagine most teenagers did not get excited about having a free moment to go visit their grandmama and granddaddy on a Friday and Saturday night. Also, what's even funnier is if you've ever been friends with me, you probably know that I didn't give them a choice. It never even occurred to me that this would be an optional thing or that other people would have a vote. Generally, I always drove. Even now, when I go somewhere, unless it's me and Ricky, if I go somewhere with friends, I drive. It's just who I am and how I work. I drive. So we were very close. Now, when I went to college, I was in my mid-20s. Well, later on in my 20s. I wasn't a teenager when I went to college. And when I went to college, I ended up living with grandmama and granddaddy because they were close to my university. And that was a very precious time because I got to spend every day with grandmama and granddaddy. I got to eat breakfast with them every morning. Grandmama, such a wonderful person. She took great joy in packing my lunch every day. When she found out that I was eating with friends, I told her one day, I was like, Grandmama, you don't have to pack my lunch because I usually eat lunch with some friends. Well, rather than stop packing my lunch, she asked how many friends I was eating with, and she started packing lunch for them too. They thought it was fabulous. In truth, I did too. But I knew my granddaddy so well, and I spent so much time with him. And spending time with him, I was excited to hear from him. I was excited to talk to him. I was always excited for another opportunity to get to know him better. And anything he was doing, if I was there, I'd just do it right alongside him because it gave us another opportunity to just grow together. I was fascinated by my granddaddy. I relished any time I got to spend with him. I loved his wisdom. I love the sound of his voice. Made me happy. Just getting to hear it, just getting to be beside him. And I valued his opinion. So if I ever was trying to make a decision or something, I knew that I could talk to him about it. And I knew that Granddaddy's advice was solid. Because my granddad knew how much he meant to me. And I knew how much I meant to him. And so, if there was anything I needed, 9 times out of 10, Granddaddy already knew. And he was just waiting on me to ask. So, that's how that relationship went. But I had another grandfather. Good man. Well loved. I have nothing bad to say about him. I have a lot of good things to say about him. But the fact of the matter was, we weren't very close. He didn't take the interest in me that Granddaddy did. We just didn't have that same kind of bond. And that's okay. We can't be everybody's favorite. We all can't be besties with everybody, okay? We just didn't have the same connection. He had that connection with other people, my brother in particular. They had a different bond. My brother and Granddaddy didn't have the bond that we had. And that's okay. But when it came time, if I needed advice, or if I needed something, if I needed help with something, I would have never asked him. I don't remember even talking on the phone to him in my entire life. I was thinking about that this morning. I can I can think of 3 times in my life that he came to our house. And I saw them a handful of times a year. Granddaddy, a couple of times a week, every week, because I was always going there. Even before I could drive, my parents were always going there. They were inviting us for supper. They were, we were part of each other's lives. But I would have never asked for help or something I needed from the other grandfather that I wasn't close to. Whereas my granddaddy, if I needed anything, he usually knew before I even mentioned it. So what's the difference between the two? I had a relationship with one. I was spending time with him daily. I knew him very personally. He knew me very personally. I love that relationship, and I put so much time into that relationship. And the closer I grew to him, the older I got, the more our relationship matured, the deeper it got. I knew of his love for me, and he knew of my love for him. And there wasn't anything I couldn't ask him that he wouldn't have done for me. There wasn't anything he could have asked me that I wouldn't have done for him. I lived with him for a year, and during that time, Granddaddy needed me. And I lived with him for a couple years, but Granddaddy was only with us for that first year. And so I would come home from school, and I would drive them wherever they wanted to go. He was too weak to do it at the time. I would take him to his favorite restaurant. They would want to go out to eat. They'd say, "Christy, we was thinking you could drive us." I was, "Yeah, I'll drive you." And it was just wonderful. We were family. So what's the difference between the two? We had a relationship. It's the same with the Father. The more time you spend with him, the more you're going to love and treasure him. The more you're going to value that time at his feet. The more you're going to want to be around him, not because you want to make sure you have time to get your wish list in, but because you want to know him more. That's the gift. Some of my favorite memories of Granddaddy are picking the figs off the tree, going out in the garden with him and helping him pull weeds and stuff. Just sitting up against him and feeling the warmth of his arm around me, the sound of his voice. He did a lot of things for me in my life. He gave me gifts that I'm still opening every day. And I can look over my time with him, and I can see the tremendous gift and provision the Father made for me in putting him in my life. But we had a relationship, and so I could come to him when I had needs and find that he had already provided for them most of the time. He had already made a way. And that's the difference. The more you know the Father, the more reverence, love, and care you're going to naturally feel for him. And so if you have that abiding daily relationship with the Father, don't worry about coming to him with your needs, because he already knows, and he's just waiting to step in. But also, if you don't have that abiding relationship with the Father, don't worry or hesitate to send out that 911 call if you need it, because he loves you just the same, and he's still waiting. And that may be what initiates that deeper relationship. Allowing him to come to your rescue when you need it, to answer when you call, may be the one thing that finally emboldens you or awakens you to the true value that he has in your life and the love that he has for you. So that was my talk today. Let me show you what I'm working on right here. This is just part of it. Oh, you see my little little paint thing there. I'm sorry, I lost that little bit of video because I got a weather alert. Gotta figure out how to turn these things off. I want to show y'all what I'm doing here. So I am making a sign for our campsite. I just paint for my own joy. I don't paint for anybody else. I don't do anything with it other than just for us. So this is Yeshua, which is the transliterated name of Jesus, which is the Word made flesh. And then I have another sign here that I'm fixing to paint his name on in Hebrew, and that is going to go across the top of this. So just a little something I wanted to do, and I am enjoying it. So this is part of what I'm doing to kind of help restore and renew my spirit this week, in addition to spending time with my Father. I love y'all, and I pray that you will know the depth, the height, the breadth of his love. I'll see you soon. Stay in the Word.